welcome back, Idiot Squared viewers. This week we have an episode for you where we're going to discuss some dumb stuff that notable people have said throughout history, and how they were wrong and why it's kind of hard to predict that. We're going to kick it off with a clip from Arnold saying that milk is for babies and only real men drink beer, which is hilarious considering the goal of bodybuilding is to grow, and the main thing that babies do is grow. But anyway, we're also going to touch on the Putin Tucker Carlson interview as well. This is going to be a bit of an exploration, bit of a wild ride. So strap in, stay tuned, and watch to the end. Polska, you got the video up?
Yeah. So if people haven't seen the movie Pumping Iron, it's a clip from that movie. And if you haven't seen that movie, I don't know what the fuck's going on in your life, but if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's a great movie. It's a classic.
What, you drink skim milk, don't you?
No, I drink no milk.
You don't drink any milk at all?
No milk, no. Milk is for babies. When you grow up, you have to drink beer.
Milk is for babies. When you grow up, you have to drink a beer.
So I don't know if he's trolling, right? Like he's just deliberately sort of misinforming people because he was competitive at the time, like he's trying to disincentivize people from doing stuff. But like when you think about what milk is something that's sort of, its purpose is to cause rapid weight gain, right? Like it's a growth formula. Like that's why babies drink milk. That's why mothers produce milk for babies to drink, so that they can get like a very dense and rich source of nutrition into their bodies that really helps with weight gain. So what's your take on this?
Guy, so I've always been a fan of milk, dude. I've been drinking, I almost said dyslactosada. I keep thinking of how to say it in Spanish. How do you say it in fucking English now? Without lactose, like lactose-free milk?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of lactose-free milk just because it digests better, not because I'm lactose intolerant or anything, but I just find it digests better. And I think it's a good post-workout. That's like my go-to. It's not that expensive. It's cheaper than buying scoops of protein, I think. And it's got carbs, it's got fat, and it's got protein. And it also has certain minerals and vitamins. And a lot of the time it's fortified with vitamin D. So for me, it's a dope go-to convenient post-workout that I've been rocking for many, many years. I know there's some people saying that, like he shouldn't be drinking milk because milk is for babies, like Arnold says. But if you look at the components of milk, dude, I think it's good to go. The lactose-free one, that's the one I would recommend to most people, because in general, as we age, we become less lactose tolerant, I believe. Maybe not all of us, but most people do. And it seems to be, it seems for some reason, certain cultures or certain races of people are more apt to being lactose intolerant. I know like African Americans, a large percentage of them are lactose intolerant. And I believe Latinos maybe as well. And lesser for Europeans for whatever reason. I'm not sure why there's that difference, but there seems to be evidence for that. But yeah, what about you, Guy? What's your take on milk? Because it's a controversial topic for some reason.
Definitely. So yeah, I'll just hit what you said there. You said as we age, we typically become less tolerant to lactose. Yeah. Apparently, as we age, we end up producing less and less lactase enzyme within our bodies. So it becomes a bit harder to digest the lactose, which kind of makes sense considering you drink the milk from the mother in your developing years, and then most people stop drinking it. There's a very funny, there's a funny British comedy show where they did a skit on that, where the guy was like 30 or 40 years old and he was still drinking his mom's breast milk. He called it Biddy. I have to remember the name of the comedy skit, but they were like hilarious comedians and it was so funny. Anyway, that was a side tangent. But yeah, okay, so that definitely is the case. Look, for me, I think milk is delicious. Like I love milk. But I have a hard time processing and digesting regular milk, right? Like just, you know, buy at the supermarket kind of stuff. Interestingly enough, though, the unprocessed, like so the non-pasteurized, non-homogenized milk that you can get that's classified in Australia as bath milk, because you're not allowed to ingest it. You're only allowed to bathe in it. It's illegal to sell it to ingest. Yeah. So it comes down to like this, the pre-processing of these things, right? So
Yeah.
in Australia, they mandate that you pasteurize the milk, and they used to mandate that you homogenize it. But the pasteurization process is a heating process that kills the bacteria, right? But when doing that, it sort of, it kills the bacteria. Whereas like sometimes, like in natural milk, there would be naturally occurring bacteria that may facilitate the digestion of the milk a bit better or help with the processing of that milk. That's one of the things with industrial scale farming is you need to minimize those variables. So they mandate that everyone pasteurizes their milk, which kills all of the bacteria, good and bad. So the unpasteurized, unhomogenized milk, I can drink without an issue. Over-the-counter milk, if I start drinking a bit too much of that, I have a bit of digestive issues, the old lactose intolerance.
It's interesting.
Explosiveness happens. I think if you're looking at it from a nutritional standpoint, it's hard to make a case for something that's like better at growth and development and fostering it, right? Like it really is a rapid weight gain formula designed for growing things. Like that's why babies drink it. It's so simple, so easy. There's like minimal digestion, sort of not maximal nutrition, but like high amounts of nutrition in it. It kind of just makes sense. Like, and it's delicious. Like a glass of cold milk is delicious. You add some chocolate to that, even better. You can mix all sorts of different things in there. But yeah, look, I'm all for it. If you can digest it, go for it. And even if you can't, you can try some of those alternatives, or even like you said, the lactose free. It can make a big difference. But I just think it's an incredibly hilarious thing that Arnold said. Like he's either trolling people or he just really doesn't see it through the lens that's most useful, which is like, milk is a rapid weight gain formula, which is what most bodybuilders want.
In a way, he is kind of right. Like babies do drink milk, and it is not only for babies, and you need to be an adult to drink beer. But that's not what he was trying to say at the time. But if you watch that movie, he's trolling people like throughout the entire documentary. He's trying to throw people off their game. He was giving like bad advice. Oh, the one thing he did was he was telling other bodybuilders the new thing on stage to do is go out posing and screaming like, ah, ah. And I guess he got a couple of the guys to believe him, and they actually went out and did that, which is hilarious. I actually saw an interview with him recently, and I don't know if it was an old clip or what, but he was saying that inside he actually felt that he wasn't good enough, that he was never good enough. He was never happy with his body. He didn't think that he was going to win. He would present himself as like this cocky, confident guy, and he would say shit, but he didn't necessarily like mean it deep inside. He was actually worried that he wasn't good enough and then he was never going to win. That was his mindset, which is really interesting to hear him say, because if you watch that documentary, that is not the Arnold you get to know in that doc. The Arnold you get to know is like trolling, funny, confident. Guy's ridiculous, but yeah, what an epic life that guy's had, man.
100, I agree. Definitely an epic life. Matt, interesting little segue you had just there, which is like him owning the fact that he didn't think he was good enough, and it was driven from insecurity. That's the power of inversions. By looking at things and inverting them is so powerful, because you start to realize that there is a large percentage of the people that present like they're super confident and all of these other external facing projections. And you realize that like what drives them, what leads them to go to these extremes is that deep sense of inadequacy. You don't typically find people that are very, feel sufficiently adequate within themselves, push to those extremes because they don't have to. They're content. It's the people that are discontent, that aren't happy with themselves, that have to push to these extremes to try and get that satisfaction, which is a mad interesting thing. Because like you said, like if you just superficially watch that, that's not the image you get. But as you start to develop more and more understanding of different things, you can kind of like get to that. Which is a mad interesting thing about bodybuilding in general, right? Like, why do people go to these extremes? And it's one of the answers to that is deep inadequacy, like deep lack of self-confidence, deep, not necessarily hatred for themselves, but a dislike with their current state or a disapproval with their current state, which is why they have to push to these extremes to try and get it. Because you realize like there's a huge cost for doing this with bodybuilding, like becoming huge and like jacked and like living at that extreme. You sacrifice almost every other thing in your life just for that. So it's an interesting concept.
Oh yeah. So going back to the lactose-free milk, I'm from the understanding that even if you don't have the lactose intolerance, like you have sufficient lactose enzymes or lactase enzymes to convert the lactose or digest the lactose, it's still more beneficial to consume lactose-free milk because your body doesn't need to concentrate on breaking down the lactose, and it can concentrate more on breaking down the protein and utilizing the protein in that milk. Whereas if the milk has lactose in it, you won't be digesting and absorbing the protein as effectively in comparison to lactose-free milk. I'm not sure if that is 100% correct, but I remember, I don't know if I heard that or I read that, but I remember like believing that for a few years now. And that's another reason why I always go to the lactose one, because did you hear that? Is that something that you've also,
but
no?
I can understand in the sense that like, so so just to clarify what lactose-free milk is. Lactose-free milk is regular milk with lactase enzyme added, right? So then the lactase enzyme can digest that lactose so that you essentially don't have to. So I can understand it in that sense, where if there's lactase enzyme in the milk, it's digesting the lactase so that then you don't have to, which frees up your digestion to maybe possibly digest more of the proteins or digest more of the milk itself. I can understand that. I don't know if the exact reasoning there that you described is 100% accurate, but I can see how that could be a thing for sure. Welcome to Good Meals. I'm Reuben. I'm the founder and developer of Good Meals, and I'm here to introduce you to a smarter way to approach your diet. Forget the one-size-fits-all meal plans. Good Meals is about precision, personalization, and simplicity. It's not just a meal planner, it's a tool that adapts to you. Start by telling us about yourself. Your goals are unique, so should be your meal plan. Good Meals utilizes advanced AI to tailor every meal to your specific nutritional needs. Here's where it gets interesting. Our extensive database isn't just a collection of recipes, it's a culinary exploration. Whether you have specific dietary preferences or just what's available in your fridge, Good Meals finds the perfect recipe for you. And it's not just about variety. We focus on the nutritional value, ensuring that every bite takes you closer to your health goals. Join Good Meals today at goodmeals.health. It's not just about eating better, it's about revolutionizing the way you think about food. Because at Good Meals, every meal is a step towards a healthier, happier you.
Have you ever heard of any other interesting, funny things that people have said about nutrition?
There's quite a lot, but there's like...
Does anything come to mind? Like Arnold? Something along the lines like Arnold said?
I was trying to think of things like that Arnold said, but nothing specifically so much as that. But there's just like a heap of crazy things that people have said throughout the years. Like the whole detox thing, like detox juices and detox diet and this and that. It's like, the best way to detox is to fast in a sense. Like,
this is a good one. Yeah. This is a good one. This is a good one. Don't
put anything like, into the body and let the body sort of go into that catabolic state and cleanse. Like that's one way to do detoxification, right? Juices and those things, I don't know how much they really help. Ingesting certain things can help to like, pull things from one area to another, whatever. But like, broadly, the best detox is kind of like just fast for a few days and let your body release that way. Another good one is Kellogg. I don't know if you know about this guy, the religious
Like the
dude from
cereal?
back in the day. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
Kellogg's, the cereal.
Oh, he was a religious dude back in the day that
Yes.
developed the cereal?
Okay, there's just a couple of mad interesting things we need to touch on first, which is like, he,
So is the
he
cereal blessed, dude? If I eat the
negative.
cereal, am I
The
going to
cereal
heaven?
is cursed. The cereal is cursed, for
So
sure.
I'm going to hell. So if I eat Kellogg's, I'm going to hell. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't know you were this religious, but yes.
No, I'm not. But if I'm gonna eat Kellogg's now, I'm gonna make sure I go into a priest so he can sanction it. So he can bless the Kellogg's and get rid of the I don't know.
The bad juju.
Yeah, the bad juju in the Kellogg's. No, anyways.
Yeah, you're not going to want to eat Kellogg's after this. So this is going to wreck it for you. Okay, so Kellogg's was this religious guy, and he famously owned sanitariums. Okay, so a sanitarium is where crazy people go. And the way the story goes is that he was obsessed with masturbation and stopping people from masturbating. Like, he apparently hated it when people masturbated, right? And what he found is when you take the meat out of people's diets and you feed them like a cereal-based diet, specifically corn, it stopped them from masturbating, right? So that's where he the story goes, that's how he developed Kellogg's cornflakes, right?
Is that what the vegans are trying to do? Is that what these fucking vegans? Is that their deep-rooted plan?
I don't know if that's their conscious plan, but it's a convenient sort of outcome from practicing those things. I don't know if it's convenient, actually. It's an indirect outcome of practicing that way of life. So just to go on this a little bit further, right? So sanitariums, where crazy people go, right? In Australia, we have a company called Sanitarium, okay? Sanitarium is a big cereal producer. Yeah. They own like the Wheat Bix and the different cereal brands. Sanitarium is owned by, I think it's the Seventh-day Adventists and a religious group or a church. They also own the Australian and New Zealand Nutritional Board that provide the recommendations for the nutrition. But isn't it crazy to have a company that's named after where crazy people used to go, that also has influences on your nutritional and diet, like the nutritional board that provides the governing rules for the dietary guidelines for those countries?
Holy fuck, guy! I've never heard this before. This is crazy. Is this?
I'm going to get some things up.
Is this a conspiracy or is this proven?
No, this is like a legit Sanitarium.
That's crazy. So I'm not curious why the hell they would name the company after that consciously, or is it possible it was? I don't know. That's crazy. That seems maybe maybe they possibly. Okay, so this is the company. See, I've never seen this before. I've never even heard about it. It's in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah,
You did?
Sanitarium.
They explore plant-powered recipes.
Wow. Visit vegetarian recipes.
125 years of serving goodness that kills your desire to masturbate.
That's hilarious. Wow.
Social purpose.
Yo, great story, by the way. That was interesting as hell.
Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to get up a couple more. So,
Kellogg's.
yeah. Weird, like crazy connections.
I don't remember the last time I've eaten cereal, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, it's funny that we actually recommend cereal, or not we, but children are recommended cereal, or cereals are largely targeted at children. And they love it, and I loved it too when I was a kid. But if you think about it, like, cereal's horrible for a kid, man. Like, if you want that kid to go to school on a stomach full of cereal, that's horrible for learning outcomes, health outcomes. Like, it's just basically a bowl full of sugar with it has some fortified vitamins and minerals and shit, but it's not a good breakfast.
Negative. Completely
So
agree
it's
there.
it's just funny. It's just funny that's what I wonder where that stems from. Like why did we get on this ship of recommending cereal to children or getting children to eat cereal for breakfast? It's such a Western thing, but 95% of kids eat cereal for breakfast. Like everyone was.
That's what I'm trying to say. This is where it all sort of started with this guy.
Man, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's crazy how this shit gets recommended to children. Like children. Man. Weird. I remember I used to...
You go.
No, I was just going to say I used to mad like Reese Puffs when I was a kid. My mom was so health conscious and she would never allow us to eat like junk food, like very moderately. But for some reason, she was convinced that cereal was good until she found out that it wasn't, until she figured it out. And then she said, now you have to eat oatmeal for breakfast. So we would convince her to get the Quaker oatmeal, like the packets, because they had some sugar in them. And because for a few years there, we were getting like Reese Puffs and Lucky Charms and shit, because all parents believed in that time that cereals, well, they probably still do, that cereal is healthy and good for kids.
But it's a bunch of other factors too, right? Like, so it's actually way easier to just buy a box of cereal and have that for breakfast than it is to get up and cook a breakfast for your child. So like, it's a mix of convenience and marketing and social imprinting and all of like a whole bunch of other factors. But yeah, like they all sort of play into it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you would know, like it's harder to cook a breakfast than it is to just like pour milk, eat.
That's true. Yeah. You had something.
Yeah. So sanatorium is what they were originally called. So a sanitarium or a sanatorium is a historic name for a specialized hospital for the treatment of specific diseases related to ailments and convalescence. Sanitariums are often in a healthy climate, usually in the countryside. The idea of healing was an important reason for the historical wave of establishments of sanatoriums, especially at the end of the 19th and the early 20th centuries. One sought, for instance, the healing of consumptives, especially tuberculosis, before the discovery of antibiotics, or alcoholism, but also for more obscure addictions and longings of hysteria, masturbation, fatigue, and emotional exhaustion. Facility operators were often charitable associations such as the Order of St. John and the newly founded social welfare insurance companies. Sanatoriums should not be confused with the Russian sanatoriums from the time of the Soviet Union, which were a type of sanatorium resort residence for workers. Lots of confusing things there. But places where people would go to get cured from things, one of which being hysteria and masturbation. But yeah, so let's go pivot back to this Kellogg's guy, right? So apparently the way the story goes is that he discovered that in his sanitariums, if he fed these people this diet of cereals, specifically those Kellogg's cornflakes, that they would stop this masturbating. And that made him really happy. But that was kind of like his mission. And it's all linked back to religious groups. So it is the Seventh-day Adventists that do this. And it's just strange to me that in Australia, we have a sanitarium company and they own the health and nutritional guidance board, right? Like they make the dietary recommendations, so to speak. And it's also convenient that they're a church and they probably have amazing tax benefits.
Well, clearly they're giving health advice. Look at the food pyramid that they have designed.
Yeah.
So cereal's all over it. It's like the biggest portion of it, isn't it?
Yeah. So you asked for examples of crazy shit that people have said throughout history relating to nutrition. That was one example. This guy promoted like an entire, essentially like the cereal industry. I don't know if it's solely because of him, but he definitely played a big role in this based on his obsession with wanting to stop people from masturbating. And that has now led to, cereal being so consumed throughout the West and people eating it without possibly knowing the effects of eating such foods on a regular basis. I've got a couple of other ones from ChatGPT, unless there's anything you wanted to hit on with that specifically.
The only thing I was going to say that came to mind was vitamin C. There's a misconception with vitamin C. in relation to oranges and lemons. For some reason, people think that oranges and lemons have high amounts of vitamin C, but in fact, they don't. And I thought that was interesting because when I was in Chile during the pandemic, I remember going out and to the grocery store to buy shit, and I would always have people telling me, "Oh, if you are feeling symptoms from COVID, just buy some ginger, buy some lemon, buy some oranges, and then make a tea with it because it's really high in vitamin C, and it will cure you." And it wasn't just like one person everyone was saying that. It was like going around my neighborhood that, "Oh, you got to get the ginger with the oranges and the lemons." And I'd be like, "Yo, you guys know that neither of those things are high in vitamin C." But they didn't want to, they didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck about that at all. They just know, "Oh, it works. It works. It works." My cousin, he drank it and he got cured from COVID in 2 days. Like, well, I don't think it had anything to do with the oranges, the lemons, or the ginger, bro. Like, I don't think that made much of a difference. And in actuality, if you want vitamin C to sort of aid you in recovering from a cold, it's not something that you start supplementing with when you start feeling symptoms. If you want vitamin C to sort of aid you in recoverment. I just make up a word, recoverment. In recovery.
Supporting your immune system.
Yeah, and immune support, which I don't know if the evidence clearly shows that vitamin C does that, but the evidence does show that if it does, it needs to be something that you supplement with daily, not just when you get sick, but you're always taking vitamin C. So when you do get sick, your body is equipped with and can utilize that vitamin C to sort of help you fight off the cold. Is what I think the evidence suggests.
Yeah, vitamin C is interesting. Yeah, interesting you mentioned that. There is a good body of research that sort of shows that the more carbohydrates you eat, the more vitamin C you need to ingest on a daily basis. There's a depletion pathway there. So to process carbohydrates requires some vitamin C, and so you can deplete that. So if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, you definitely want to be consuming more vitamin C. That's one interesting thing. Another interesting thing is that we don't produce vitamin C within our bodies, but way back, some common ancestors that we had used to, but then at some point along the way, we stopped. So we stopped being able to produce vitamin C within ourselves, and we needed to start getting it from the environment. People's memories, like most common things, will probably be scurvy when people were traveling on long distance trips on the boats. People would start to suffer from scurvy, which is a lack of vitamin C. But yeah, that's an interesting one.
Quickly, Kakadu plums are high in vitamin C. Acerola cherries, rose hips, chili peppers, and guavas. Sweet yellow peppers. Yeah, those are some things high in vitamin C. Are higher than others, yeah.
All right, let's do another interesting... Okay, so I have one more food one that came to my mind. I think I've mentioned this once, twice, maybe a few times on this pod before, but most people think that bananas are really high in potassium, which is not true. Bananas are most certainly definitely not very high in potassium. They're like... the last time I looked when I ranked all these things, they were like 1,818 or something, or 80 on the list of foods rich in vitamin C. Potassium, not vitamin C. Foods rich in potassium. Just a very common basic thing like tomato paste is significantly richer in potassium than bananas per 100 grams, right? So I think like a small tub, I think it's like 75 grams or something like that, has like 1.3 grams of potassium or like 1,300 milligrams of potassium in it. Whereas like you'd need to eat a ridiculous amount of bananas to even get close to that amount.
You know what's funny? I actually learned that when I was a kid, that bananas were high in potassium from the movie Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. Do you remember those movies? Honey, We Shrunk the Kids?
I do. Yeah.
Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. So in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, the son has an illness and he didn't take his medication. And because the parents are shrunken, they can't attend to him. And he starts feeling a little bit woozy and sick. They were having a party or something in the house. And the daughter, she thought quickly and she ran and got some bananas because supposedly they're high in potassium, and she fed the bananas to the kid, and he suddenly like came back too. So I remember as a kid learning that, oh, bananas are high in potassium.
Yeah. Marketing is fantastic. Like very powerful in both directions, positive and negative. Okay, so let's just hit on bananas one more thing. So there's another interesting thing about bananas. There's two interesting things, right? So apparently green bananas can help you lose weight. The fiber from the green banana can be good at helping with weight loss, or curbing appetite and helping to control insulin levels in the body. But also recently, a bunch of people have started to become aware that bananas can inhibit the absorption of polyphenols in the human body. So like a lot of people have like banana in their smoothie with lots of other, like dark green things, or blueberries, or, other foods rich in polyphenols. And apparently the banana can inhibit the absorption of those polyphenols. So it reduces the effective amount of polyphenols in what you're having. So there could be a reason to not include a banana in your breakfast shake or when trying to eat foods rich in polyphenols. Just saying. I don't know how true that is. This is just some new developments that are happening around the place.
Oh, it's just the banana's the go-to, bro. That's like the go-to thing you put in every single smoothie. I can't imagine a smoothie without a banana. It just gives that beautiful consistency. You know what I mean?
Silky texture.
Oh, fuck, dude. I'm gonna look this up. I want it to not be true, bro, because
it's okay.
I can't drink a smoothie.
Eat it away from your polyphenols. Just make it a boring banana thing, and then eat your polyphenols at a much later time. Well, I don't know, but definitely look into it. We can do a check back on that. Okay, so I also have some other funny things that people have said. So there was remember the low-fat diet craze? In the late 20th century. So low-fat diets were heavily promoted for weight loss and heart health. This often led to the replacement of fats with highly processed carbohydrates and sugars, which is a shift that is now criticized for contributing to the massive obesity epidemic and the type 2 diabetes epidemic that we have currently going on.
That one is hilarious. But yeah, people I remember that, dude. They just got on board with this idea that I need a fat-free diet, which is hilarious.
Or super low fat, right? Like considering that their parents or their parents' parents, or that like their grandparents, their parents, grandparents, etc., all ate like slightly more fat. And we know now that like if your diet if you're not getting around 20% of your calories from fats, it can severely inhibit your hormone production and many other things, which is hilarious because let's tie it back to the Kellogg's guy. He's feeding all them people all them cereals, right? They're not getting their 20% caloric intake from the spectrum of fats that are available, tanking their hormone levels, leading them to not want to,
It's funny because even companies got on board with that. They started making products promoting this is, this product contains low fat or 50% less fat. And then sodium became a thing as well.
Yeah, that was another big one.
Yeah, like the sodium thing was funny, but here's the thing with sodium though. There are certain preservatives that are, I don't know if the preservatives are classified as a sodium or on the nutrition label. They put them in, like if you look at the sodium amount in milligrams, and like the product has preservatives, I believe that the preservatives are put in where like with the sodium, I believe, right? So there's like, because sodium's actually very important, and we actually need, especially for an active person, more sodium than you would think, but not preservatives though, right? Not sodium from those packaged frozen meals and shit. What we need is more towards table salt or sea salt, right? That's the type of sodium that people should be intaking.
Well, we require a number of electrolytes, sodium being an electrolyte. So yeah, sodium is incredibly important, but it is in and of itself isn't just the only thing. There is a bunch of them. So you got sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. I'm missing some here. There's a bunch of others. I'm blanking. There's a list of the electrolytes, but they're all important. Sodium is an extracellular hydrator. So it pulls water into the extracellular space, the space around cells. And potassium is an intracellular hydrator. It pulls fluid or water into the cell to keep the cell hydrated. So ideally, what you're trying to do is make sure that you have a balance between them. So if you're not eating a lot of potassium, but you're eating a lot of sodium, you're going to unbalance that. You're going to have more water or more fluid in the extracellular space and less in the intracellular space. Ideally, you want to have the balance between intracellular and extracellular. This is where, so you're over-consuming sodium and under-consuming potassium. That can be a problem, right? But typically, if you exercise a lot and you sweat a lot, you've got to replace those electrolytes. Most people's idea of salt consumption or salt intake is really skewed because of that, demonizing sodium and saying it's responsible for blood pressure and all these other things. Like one of the best ways to lower blood pressure if you have really high blood pressure is move your body, go out and become physically active, drop some weight if you're obese. But like increase the elasticity of your vascular system is one of the best ways you can reduce blood pressure. Arguably, it's the only way you can really reduce it, minus blood volume. But yeah, that's a whole nother topic. What's another one? The trans fats, you remember that? Like back in the day, people promoted trans fats as being really healthy. The partially hydrogenated oils.
Yeah, did they really? I don't remember.
Yeah. For a period. They were big. It was like a big thing to do because it was a way of like sort of fluffing up oil, right? Like you could take like 100 mils of oil and boom, turn it into more than what it was by blasting it essentially.
Wow. So they basically added trans fats to oils and then told people that trans fats were healthy so people would buy more oil or cook with oil.
I think they started to make more things with trans fats and then promote how good they were.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just one thing. So I asked ChatGPT and it gave me a little thing on Kellogg. So we're just going to make a little a detour back to Kellogg. So John Harvey Kellogg's anti-meat stance. Kellogg, a physician and health activist in the late 19th and earliest 20th century, advocated for a vegetarian diet to promote health and discourage what he saw as immoral behaviors associated with meat consumption. While vegetarian and vegan diets are widely accepted today for various ethical, environmental, and health reasons, Kellogg's strict views and some of his health beliefs, such as the idea that certain foods could decrease sexual desires, are seen as extreme by modern standards. Hell yeah, they are. So out of nutrition, there are some other things that people have said throughout history that are kind of like silly. One thing that comes to mind was, I think it was an article written in the Wall Street Journal before the Wright brothers flew their plane, stating that humans won't fly for another 1,000,000 years. And then just literally like a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, the Wright brothers did their first flight.
Hell yeah. That's a good story. That's funny. So the Wall Street Journal, no, I was just going to say, so the Wall Street Journal said no one could fly in 1,000,000 years, but they also said something about nutrition. This I'm excited to hear about.
No, I don't know if they said anything about nutrition.
Oh, I thought you were alluding to, I thought you just wanted to first show how Wall Street Journal got one thing completely wrong and then transition to the nutrition thing that they mentioned.
No, I don't have a record for the nutrition. I have non-nutrition related examples. One other example is apparently Decca Records rejecting the Beatles in 1962. They said, we don't like their sound and guitar music is on the way out. And that was a misjudgment regarding one of the most influential bands in history. So they kind of missed them. Apparently, Napoleon Bonaparte is quoted as saying, he was on the English Channel, "What, sir? Would you make a ship sail against the wind and currents by lighting a bonfire under the deck? I have no time for such nonsense." Apparently, this comment was in response to Robert Fulton's steamship designs showcasing skepticism towards technological innovation. There's another one from Einstein. So apparently, in the early 20th century, Einstein said, "There is not the slightest indication that nuclear energy will ever be obtainable." And so it shows that even the brightest minds can underestimate the potential for emerging technologies.
Yeah, well, we're all idiots, man. We're all idiots,
legit,
right?
100. Okay, so that was kind of interesting. But this week, something pretty big happened, which was the Putin v. or X Tucker Carlson. Tucker traveled to Russia, got an interview with Putin, which is pretty exciting in all seriousness. I found it a little bit underwhelming, but I did think it was still good. I enjoyed watching most of it. I did watch it at a very fast speed. Like I watched it like 1.75 and slowed it down for some parts because I thought that they were some interesting parts. But I know you watched it as well, Guy. So you got any takeaways or anything you want to hit on to start with?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wish I would have been able to pay attention a little bit more to it. Like every time I got a chance to watch it, I was always having to do something at the same time where I couldn't fully focus just on the interview. So I'm probably gonna get a lot of these things wrong, but give it up to Tucker Carlson, man, for doing that. Like that guy. I love that guy. To go over there, interview Putin, like that's so dope. I love that. What I would love to see is Russians interviewing Biden. That'd be a good interview. Okay? Or some Russians even interviewing Trump. That'd be funny as hell too.
Yeah. I can't imagine the Biden one. Like I feel like they would just get infuriated because they're like, does this guy even, like, is he conscious? Is this guy even able to, like, I don't even think you could have a conversation with the guy.
Yeah. So as I was watching the Putin interview, there was like this dub over it of someone else's voice, right?
That was annoying.
So I don't know. I don't know if I was getting an idea of who Putin is through this guy's tone and his voice. So that was kind of hard for me to understand. Like, is this, because it's someone else speaking, so it's difficult to get a good understanding of maybe the sincerity or
inflection points.
Yeah, just exactly. So that was a little bit difficult to comprehend. But the feeling I got was that he was at least thinking he was being sincere. Like I thought he was being sincere in his answers. I don't know. Sometimes like it could be a thing of, oh, he just really believes his own bullshit, or he really is telling the truth. So it's difficult to sort of gauge that. But I did kind of feel he was being somewhat sincere, and I liked his directness. He's not like politicians from the West. He was giving pretty good direct answers most of the time. He was focused more on what he wanted to say more than actually trying to answer Tucker Carlson's questions. He did get around to answering the questions as well, but he had his prerogative was just to inform Westerners of the history leading up to the decisions of why he decided to invade Ukraine, basically. So he was just going on about it was basically like a history lesson from the perspective of Vladimir Putin. So again, correct. I don't know how accurate it is because we have, if our politicians here are full of shit and we have propaganda that is trying to manipulate us, you can be rest assured that Russia is doing the exact same thing. So we can't believe either sides, but it's fucking cool to just hear another perspective. It's interesting, but we can't be assured that any of it is actually accurate, right? And history is a funny thing because the victors are the one that write the history. So there's
so many different perspectives. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you said, it's from his perspective. But it's good to be able to get his perspective, and you can juxtapose it with other people's perspectives, right? You can compare and contrast it with what other people have said, and you can sort of create a space out of that, right? They can start to develop a better understanding. Like, okay, so they see it this way, they see it this way. Oh, okay, so somewhere in the middle there might be a bit more of an accurate depiction. But like, yeah, you said he did do pretty well at answering some of the questions. He definitely stuck to his prerogative. Like Tucker would ask a question, he'd finish his initial thought and then eventually get back around to answering the question in some way, shape, or form. I just sort of, like, to me, the most interesting thing is just how cognitively able he is. right? Like he appears to have fantastic recollection, right? Like he was able to recite dates and times and all sorts of different things really well. He was able to have a conversation back and forth with Tucker. A lot of it was him just, telling this history or telling the perspective. But yeah, I just thought incredibly high bandwidth in terms of that, incredibly cognizant. And he definitely seems to have quite a high level perception and what you could say is an understanding of geopolitics and sort of how the world works, which is what you want from somebody playing at the top level. Like you want them to be aware of all those different things. But I thought it was brilliant that Tucker did it. I did get some out of it, and I thought it was very interesting to hear, like you just said, his perspective and the way that he seems to perceive the history of all of those things, and to see why he was justified in doing the things that he did. Which is interesting because if you just listen to the West mainstream media, Russia's the bad guy all the time because they did X, Y, and Z, whereas like NATO has been encroaching on their territory for a long time, and there's this very rich history of things that have happened. It's not just black and white, right? It isn't just this side's bad, this side's good. Like I'm sure they've all got aspects of good and bad. And by having these two different perspectives you can compare and contrast to, you can start to sort of untangle a bit of that, I suppose.
Yeah, if we look at the military-industrial complex, it gives us an idea of the way that the West, or largely America, sort of handles situations, right? Because there's a track record of things that they've done, lies that they've said in order to sort of prolong wars or even initiate wars, right? So we can be rest assured that they're not telling us the truth of why certain things are happening. And also because there's a track record of America, initiating some of these wars and some of these proxy wars. Many people say that this Ukrainian war is a proxy war. It's an American war, really. Based on that, we can sort of, I can't say for certain, but when Tucker Carlson asked Putin, like, who destroyed the pipeline, right? He was basically saying, I think we both know who did it. That was sort of like his response without saying it. And it's much more plausible that that wouldn't come from him, and it would come from somebody else. And I forgot what my other point was. It's just, he was going on about how he has attempted to make peace, right? That's been his goal for the most part, is he just wants to be part of the family, part of the team, and have good relationships with other countries, is what he was sort of portraying in the interview with Tucker. Whereas he's saying America has done a bad job of doing that. And that to me does sound believable based on what I was saying before, how America has sort of used the military industrial complex to sort of drive a lot of these wars. So I do think that might have some validity. Yeah,
I agree. So yeah, a couple of interesting things there, right? So definitely with the wars. Also, he hit on a couple of interesting things with the dollar as well, how they use the dollar. So they sort of weaponize the dollar, but how that has actually bitten them in the ass. Like by putting the sanctions on Russia that they did, it's actually like been a net negative for the US. It's sort of put some fear in globally, the different global leaders' minds that like, oh, hey, we rely on this US dollar too much. They could weaponize it. They could cut us off. They could do all this different stuff. And so I thought that was a very interesting point. I briefly remember, I don't know, you might remember this better, but did he reference that Tucker applied to be in the CIA at some point?
He did,
and that he didn't get in, and how
That's
lucky
right.
it is that he didn't get in because look at what he's doing. Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating. I was surprised that Tucker didn't react to that a little more.
Yeah, he was super stealth on that, like super
composed.
composed. Yeah.
I was surprised.
but how, like, okay, another thing was like, is how well read and researched Putin was on Tucker and on many other events, right? Like that was a big interesting thing. The other thing that I think was quite interesting from that is going down that weaponizing the dollar is he was saying how that sort of played into like the way Russia has to act now. So the Russia is trading a lot more in yuan than it was previously to this, and that possibly more and more countries are going to start doing this different thing, which is indirectly strengthening China's hand, which seems like a strange play from the US. But anything to say on that?
So his perspective of China was very interesting as well, because what did he say? Do you remember what he said about
China is about compromise?
That's it. Yeah. Which I thought was very interesting, because that's not the message that we receive about
Correct.
China, right? Which is actually, if it is true, that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Although I would want to live under the China, I don't know how to say it, Chinese law,
Communist rule.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be down for that. But if China is about compromises, then it could be that they could carry on with the way that they're running their own country, and maybe not try and influence other countries how to run their own country, because that's a Western thing to do. That's an American thing to do, is try to get other countries to be more American, right? So maybe China isn't that way. Maybe we're kind of thinking about it in the wrong way, because we're concerned that, if China becomes this huge power, they're going to influence their communistic views on everybody. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe they just want to do that for themselves, because they understand compromise and they understand that other countries are able to do or run things the way that they want to. We just gotten used to the fact that America has influenced everybody, because that's how America does things.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. One other thing that I got two other things I want to mention, but the one other thing was when Putin asked if they could become part of NATO, to who did he ask it to? Clinton? Bill Clinton, was it? Or was it George W. or one of the presidents?
It was one of them.
Yeah. I think it was Clinton, though. I think you're right. And he was like, well, I'll find out. And then he's like, yeah, no, it's not going to be a thing, because the deep state said no, essentially. Yeah. So that was quite interesting that he sort of was noting those things.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I'd love to know why they wouldn't want Russia in NATO, right? Like,
many reasons.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? At that level, there's so many moving parts, so much. It's a shit show. So who knows what?
Even if that's true, right? Like maybe that isn't a true statement. Maybe he just made that up. Yeah. But like, I just thought it was interesting. So the last sort of really interesting thing that I took from the interview. This is the last interesting thing from me. Feel free to follow anything you have. But it was regarding AI and biological developments, and Putin kind of like advocating for like sort of a global set of regulations for AI and biological enhancements and developments. He kind of called for like a global regulation towards those things, which to me is interesting for many reasons. One is more just like, is he saying this because it's kind of like a convenient way to be like, yeah, let's do these regulations. And like, while they're putting all the regulations, he's just doing whatever he wants to do, and he's getting ahead of everybody else because they're all slowing theirs down, right? Like, is it like a bait and switch kind of tactic? Or is he genuinely, sort of concerned about this? Because when you look back, Russia is a pretty big player in terms of the old biological enhancements development. Like it was pretty big in the whole steroids thing, and like creating super soldiers and doing different things, like a lot of peptide therapies and stuff like that come out of Russia as well. Like lots of the research on many different compounds, like Russians are famous for using high dose enzymes as well as anabolic steroids with their athletes and with their soldiers, so that they could eat more food to build more muscle to increase their performance quicker, a whole bunch of other stuff. But like lots of really interesting research comes out of Russia in that space. So I thought that was interesting. Do you remember that bit, or do you have any comments on it?
Yeah, I do remember that bit. I didn't think of it the way that you just presented it, but now that I'm considering that, it could be like a bait and switch sort of tactic. That's an interesting point. Yeah, the way I thought about it initially was, he's because Tucker highlighted something, so it might have placed a bias on me, but he highlighted the fact that Putin is Orthodox Christian or something. Orthodox Christian, I believe. Is that right?
I can't remember.
Okay. He's some sort of, well, he's religious in the sense that he's not like super religious, because Putin did make it clear that he's not super religious, but he does have a lot of Orthodox Christian views. I hope that's the right one, Orthodox Christian views. And I know that religious people, from my experience, they're not about the AI or the genetic mutation sort of thing. And I'm not just talking about like from my personal experience here. I'm talking like generally speaking. I think that religious people have an issue with AI technology and gene mutation, gene manipulation technologies. So I thought he was sort of making that comment based on some of his religious views, but I like your take a lot better for some. Yeah.
Well, I think they can both be true. Like, it could also not be a bait and switch. It could literally just be like he wants to push for regulation because he realizes that people are further ahead than he is, or that Russia is, and he wants them to slow down so that they can catch up, or whatever. Like, there could be any number of different reasons. I just thought it was interesting that on that platform, in that interview, like, he stated that he's sort of for this global regulation of these things. I just found that super interesting. I was just you go.
No, go ahead. You got something else? I'll say my thing after.
I was just, well, you say your thing, and then we can go from there.
Did you catch the part when he was talking about Poland and how Poland supported Hitler at one point?
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting because everything isn't so black and white. And I have some skin in the game because my family's from Poland. So what's it called?
Context.
It's like So I'm probably gonna sound like I'm defending Poland in a way, but anyways, each country always has different political parties, right? And you have the left versus the right, and they have their different views. So I think that it's probably true that a certain portion of Poland did support Hitler. At the same time, another portion did not support Hitler. So when he said that Poland supported Hitler, he's not speaking about the entire country. He's speaking about, there was certain Polish people that for sure supported Hitler because many people supported him. But remember, there's not just one decision in each country, right? There's always multiple sides. So both things are true. Yes, Poland probably did support it, but also at the same time, there was many people who did not support Hitler. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. And that's true for so many things. But like, again, to say something about, like, to paint a picture, to paint a story, you've got to be like, his version is that they did. And it's convenient for him to just think that they did because it's easier to hold in your mind than understanding that, a majority of them did, or this percentage of them did, and they won out. That kind of makes sense. So, like, again, and it's always from his perspective. So it's, through his lens. There was one other interesting thing. It's blanking me. I had it just before, but now I've lost it. There's actually quite a lot of very interesting things, but like I said, I watched it very quickly. I didn't put a huge amount into this. I really wanted a version with Putin speaking in Russian. Like you mentioned, like, I don't want the dub over the top. Like, I want to be able to hear the Russian and just see the transcript.
Exactly.
So you can get a sense for the way that he's communicating things. Because I do think he is quite deliberate with his words. I've liked that about hearing him speak on things. But just a big takeaway from me was, like, the level of cognitive capacity and his sort of depth of knowledge of history or understanding of different histories and dates and things like that seems to be a bit higher than the cognitive capacity of somebody else currently. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were on a team, and your team leader was one of those two guys, if you could pick a team, right, and the team leader was one of those two guys, which team would you be picking? Like,
oh, dude, great question, Rubes. That's great. I love that. Yeah. No, great point. I see. That's just the feeling I was getting from watching. I was like, oh wow, it's a little bit refreshing to hear a politician speak this way in this manner. Good point. That's hilarious. Yeah,
it's just silly. It's crazy. But I also saw like this. It's kind of like the ultimate flex for America. It's like, yo, we're so good, we can have this idiot in charge and we can still win. Like,
yeah.
There's somebody wrote a really good tweet about this, which was like, it's kind of like having Biden as your president is kind of like the same flex as like riding your bike, but taking your hands off and being like, look, no hands. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like it's a cool flex every now and then, bro, but you can't ride, you can't do everything like that. Like at some point you got to put your hands back on.
Remember when Biden fell off the bike?
Yeah, have you seen the most recent one where the dude was like, he looked like he was on a cruise ship trying to get to the podium to talk?
Is that the one where he was getting off the podium and he didn't know where to go? He's like, how do I get off this thing? That's an older one. Okay. This is a newer one where he like, you know how he walks in from the side and there'll be a podium where he has to go and address everybody. So it's like, 5 meters away. So he starts walking and it's like he's on a cruise ship because he's like left and then right and then he finally gets there and it's like he's centered. It's like, yo, it looked like that was moving, but it was still what? It's just fascinating. I just think fantastic that we had the opportunity to listen into something like that somebody from America, Tucker especially, could go there, ask some good questions, have a 2-hour plus conversation with this guy, and it can be distributed to everybody to watch. I think it's got a huge amount of impressions. Again, I don't think like we should blindly believe anything that was said in that thing. It's just interesting. It's new information to consider, and it can help to create a higher resolution image of the entire space or understanding of those things, because they're incredibly complex. And just having one side is a surefire way to be misled. Well said, guy. Absolutely.
If you have any thoughts and comments on the Tucker interview or any funny, hilarious nutrition myths or things that have been said by people over time, please comment them and let us know, because we're also interested in learning more about that, because it's crazy when you look back at history and think of the dumb shit people have said over time that has been shown to be wrong. Time is the ultimate revealer of truths or knowledge. And I can't wait to see what in like 30, 40, 50, even 100 years, if we're still alive, we'll look back on and think like, oh, look at all the dumb shit we said and other people said, and how it was wrong. I think it's going to be very interesting. I actually think people in the future, like 1,000 years from now, are going to look back and be like, oh my God, can you believe people did this? Like they went to school, they ate this food from these massive corporations that were just trying to like get them sick so that they could make money off this. I think it's going to be such perspective shift over that time. It's going to be bonkers. And the machine gods that we create will look back and feel very sorry for us poor humans that had to live through this. But yeah, that's a wrap. Anything to close on, Guy?
No, it was perfect, Guy. Love you, bro.
I love you too, Guy. And I just want to praise the machine gods of the future. Thank you. Bring me back. Bye.
All right, later, bro. Peace.
Peace.